Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm Rusty Moose Knuckle, and this is Charlie Raymond of the KPRO.
What'd you say? What your name was? Rusty what?
Rusty Moose
Knuckle. Hold on. I don't know what's in this drink. We gotta move this drink over here.
Unless you're on the page or in the group, which clearly you're not, you wouldn't know.
I don't know.
The team knows, right? Team knows.
Oh.
Anyway, welcome everybody.
Welcome, and stay tuned to the very end for another important announcement. Also, fact is, there's two announcements. Remind me at the very end, around 10 o'clock when we wrap up, somebody in the chat say, hey, Charlie, what are the two announcements? So we don't forget.
All right. I don't even know what they are.
You know one of them.
Okay. Well, we've got a great show planned tonight, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. Let's quickly see who we've got in the room with us. We've got Jess Featherston here. Welcome, Jess. Lane is back. Welcome, Lane. Jim's here. Judy's here. Who else? That's us. Mary's here. Greg Cash is here. Debbie is here. Hey, Debbie. We got a few people. Randy Brooks is here. I see you, Randy, Janet. Looking to get in. Janet is here. Hey, Janet. Some talk about the expedition in there. That is what one of the announcements is about. I have no idea what the other one is about, but oh, Frank's here. Frank, interested in your trip to Canada.
Frank went squatching with
what's
his name up there?
Controversial guy.
I can't think of the guy's name now.
You know who he is, the Canadian with the
Muppets.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm interested to hear all about that, Frank. But more so your trip to Canada, because that's where my heart lays. So I'd love to hear about that. Jim's here. Topher Fur, welcome. I don't think I've seen that name before. From Bronston, Kentucky. Hello. Delphia is here. Hey, Delphia. Who else? Did I miss anyone?
And everybody else.
And everybody else. Welcome. Right. Thanks for coming back. Great show lined up tonight.
Well, we are very fortunate that Mike Smith was patient, because we had to reschedule a few of these due to my health condition, which I'm doing better, by the way. I'm on my medicine. Everything's great. But thank you for Mike hanging around and being patient with us. I took Mike's report, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and we drove down there, Brent Sipley and I, and we interviewed Mike, actually went on his boat and did like a reenactment, and or actually try to do an analysis of his sighting, which he'll talk about a little tonight. And we did a full video of his sighting, how big it was, and everything that had happened. And then that night, the same little bay right around the corner, we recorded some amazing tree knocks and howls, sent them to Monongahela. Monongahela is the expert, in my opinion, on Bigfoot vocals. And he said those were multiple Bigfoot around you, and of course the tree knocks. So we actually captured evidence the night we met Mike and did his interview. So we're excited to have Mike on here. Mike's also a researcher. You know, I guess like everybody else, he's gotten hooked on this. And
well, you would, wouldn't you, after seeing what he'd seen?
Yeah, if you see one, you tend to get hooked.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Well, let's welcome Mike to the show. So Lindsay could do it. She's got the clicker. And there he is. Hey, Mike.
Hey.
Well, when we came on live, which was just literally a couple of minutes before everybody else, we tuned in and we got the screen up, and some of you probably know this about Mike, but maybe not everybody, but he's a really, really, really good singer, and he's really good on the guitar too. So we caught him strumming a few tunes when we came live. So that's clearly his other passion aside from Bigfoot.
Yeah, this is my we're in my studio right here, my little corner of our bedroom. It's my studio, so it's really
okay.
yeah.
Nice.
You need to write a Bigfoot song.
Well, you know, the girls are leaving, I guess, early Saturday morning to go to my wife's dad's in Florida, and I'm gonna be what they call batching it. I'm gonna be a bachelor, I guess, for 3 or 4 days. Maybe I'll have some time to work on that.
Yeah, there you go. Keep you out of trouble.
Right,
awesome,
right.
Awesome. Well, we've had you, you actually came to our last expedition back in the fall. We were out in LBL and you gave a presentation, and that was really so well received. Everybody loved it. I'm sure we're going to invite you back to do it again at some point if we get back to LBL. Probably next year. I don't quite know when, but that was awesome. And your encounter is amazing, and you do tell it so well. So I think everybody's really going to enjoy what you've got to share with us tonight. And just before we let you take over, Mike, and talk about what happened, guys, get your questions in the chat because I'll be monitoring it, and we do like to keep it super interactive. So any questions that come in, we will put them to Mike. So that's throughout the show too. So line them up.
Mike, can you let people know your career, what you do for a living?
Yeah, I've been coaching soccer. I'm a soccer coach here in the state. I've been coaching high school soccer for 23 years. And then I've been in education, I guess, the last 15. I've been a classroom teacher. I'm currently, for the last 6 years, I'm the athletic director of a small school here in the West Kentucky.
I knew that. I wanted people to know some of your background.
Yeah.
And you've now, I would guess, since your sighting, have also become a researcher, and you started speaking at conferences, right?
Yeah, I did my first. Just got back in June. It was the Forest County Bigfoot Festival up in Pennsylvania. Really, really cool. It was really neat. Really enjoyed that. I'm a reluctant researcher, is what I tell them. I'm really a fisherman, and this stuff just hit me in the face. But I'm excited to share my experiences because I really want probably some of the same things that you do, Charlie. When we met, I want people to know what's out there and know how to be safe and understand the things that are there. But also then, if I've got a goal, it was to get them recognized and protected, especially the habitat portion, because I think that's what's dwindling really quickly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell people, because they usually respond, why do you need to protect them? They're doing just fine. It's not them, it's their habitat.
Yep.
Because if they can't reproduce, they're going to go extinct.
Yep.
Hey, Hellbent Holler's here.
Oh, yes.
Your buddies down there.
All right.
Randy, Mike has taught me a lot. That's good. That's off to a good start.
I know Randy goes down there quite often to LBL.
We're trying to work on getting together sometime. He and I become pretty good friends. It's neat. This whole community is awesome. The people you meet and just the sincerity and the shared vision. And I haven't really met a bad one yet. And Joe and Jesse, they're a couple of good ones.
Yeah, there's you will run across some.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Got Bigfoot in the brain, where everything's a Bigfoot, and so gradually you weed those people out, and the ones that are legit,
right,
and honest, and but anyway, but most people are in this field of research, I think, are very giving, caring, down to earth, normal people that we love hanging out with. And we do our expeditions. It's more so meeting up with friends we've met over the years.
Yeah,
we've met so many Bigfoot friends. In fact, on my Facebook, I laugh because I would say over 90% of the people on my Facebook are Bigfooters,
Right.
and some of them I've never even met.
Yeah.
But I have more Bigfoot friends than I do real friends. So yeah, I'm sure you had a lot of great friends too, Mike, down there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I see Randy here. Randy's, I've become pretty good friends. He's been out with me. I'm going to talk about at the end. I'll mention just the latest experience. I kind of tagged it on my Facebook page. I had a cool thing happen at church a couple Sundays ago that was just really, really, really neat. And Randy's been to the spot where I'm going to talk about, and it'll hit home. It's a neat thing.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do you want to
do you want to back to the day? Yeah.
Do you want to start with your sighting?
Yeah.
And first, so people know, the full sighting is on our YouTube channel. It's under the Beast of LBL. So look up the Beast of LBL. Mike's full, in-depth, testimony and analysis that we did is on there. But tonight you'll give us a little bit of a shorter version of it, just kind of what happened and such.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been out there. I've been on a few podcasts, but you were the first. And I tell everybody, I always give you a shout out at the conference. I led with that. I felt like I was a rep for YouTube at one point, just pointing to everybody's YouTube pages. But I told him you called me back. It was a midnight almost. And
I did.
Yeah. So because when this happens to you, there's so many emotions and things go through your head, and the prominent one is I'm crazy now,
Join the club.
and even listen, it was even great if they go watch that video. The stuff you guys got that night just solidified to me, and I'm so fortunate. I have a lot of witnesses with me and people with me to validate this stuff. And my wife's like, "You're not crazy. We heard it. We saw the trees. You're not crazy." But when you get those knocks and you get those howls and they're on there, I'm just like, yeah, he got it too. Okay, I'm not nuts. But it was
even, that night I just put my microphones out, and they're highly sensitive, omnidirectional, any direction mics. I just hung it in a bush or something, walked over to Brent by the fire, and then it went crazy. Howls from different directions, tree knocks.
Yeah.
It's all recorded. It's on there. Monongahela is who I sent it to. Shockingly, he said there are multiple Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yes.
He could tell the difference in the vocalizations and said you had a number of Bigfoot around you.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and that spot continues. That's about the extent. I go to other places just to purposely see if I'm getting that type of activity and that type of evidence and indicators, and I'm not. And you go right back to that little spot, and they're in there, and it's been that way. It's been actually 5 years now, man. It seems like it was yesterday, but we're at 5 years.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the location, because I don't think we covered off on it, did we? Because so you're out by LBL.
Mm-hmm.
Is in but you don't live in that area,
Nobody
do you?
Does.
Yeah, no. But you go. That's where you're. I have been there.
No, but nobody lives in LBL.
I know that, and I know they flooded it. I know all the things.
Okay. But she hasn't. In her defense, she's never been all the way through LBL. She's only been to one or two.
I've been to a few spots.
One or two spots.
Let's talk. LBL is a big place, so there's so many stories centered around the whole. The history of it is just vast.
Oh,
which part of the park are you focusing on?
Right. So
without giving the exact location away, I don't know if you want to do that or not, but let's try and narrow it down a little bit.
Right. And so it's locally here, and I've been going there regularly since 1988. So locally you've got the north end, and then you've got the south end, and that's the dividing line is Highway 6880. And I'm in the north end, and then you've got the Kentucky side and the Barkley side. And so I'm almost exclusively north end Kentucky side. The legends and the Beast of LBL and the other things that are running around, a lot of that stuff happens on the north end Barkley side. And
Right.
I tend to stay away from there. I shared in one of the documentaries an experience I had in high school, and I just get a weird feeling up there. So I don't go. I leave that to Joe and Jesse and some of the more hardcore folks. I don't, I don't go out at night unless I'm, helping you guys out, or a rare occurrence with a documentary maker or somebody like that. But I tend not to go
Yeah.
out at night. I want to leave them alone.
Hopkinsville. How far is Hopkinsville from there?
Yeah, it takes about 35 minutes for me to get to the Fenton Access Boat Ramp, and that's where I'm doing most of my fishing, and that's right off of 6880 by a bridge called Egner's Ferry Bridge. So it's and I've got it. That's almost all the way through LBL, so I can make it actually into LBL in less than 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. You're very close.
Yep.
The north end Barkley side, Martin Groves,
Mm-hmm.
last time we were there, told us to go there.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours, John Harbaugh, made a great, we call it a werewolf howl.
Oh, yes.
And we had it reply back to us, and it came close, remember?
Yeah.
We got it on the third.
But we don't know if it was a wolf, not a coyote.
Right.
Are there wolves up there?
Yes, absolutely. We've seen them. I guess it was last spring. I had a spree of, and I've seen one myself up close. But there in October, I had a cousin who had spent some time in Alaska, and he calls me and he said, "Have you ever seen a wolf?" And at that time, I had not. I'd just seen big tracks, and he said, "Man, it was running right down the trace. It's the biggest coyote I've ever seen." A few months later, I was fishing, walking on the bank early. I go in and walk, and a bass boat came around the cove and saw me, and they were shocked to see somebody out, and knew I quickly found out I was a local. First thing he asked, "Have you ever seen a wolf?" We saw a big black one running along the power line cut when we were coming in this morning. And then in December, on the way to there's Patty's on the pier. It's in Grand Rivers. They do a big light show. We go every year. The day after Christmas when they're closed, but the lights are still on. There's not a lot of people. We saw one at night right by a guardrail, right by the canal. So they're there. There's bears here. The Forest Service finally admitted the bears because they had a video sent to them right outside the visitor center, a black bear. So I don't
deny it anymore.
Yeah, they may be transient. I don't know that we got some mountain lions. I don't know that there's a population living there, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's shocking because when you look at a map, it doesn't look as big.
Yeah.
It's surrounded by water, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't think all those large creatures could live there. But it's maps are deceiving. When you get there, there's plenty of wilderness.
It's Charlie. And it gets a lot of visitors. If you look at stats, the paved road, the trace, and then some of the Bison Range and Wranglers and Turkey Bays, the off road. So the big areas, they hold probably 90% of the traffic. But I rarely see a person when I'm hiking. One mountain biker we ran up on one time. I mean, you can go and it's about 8 miles wide at the widest point. It's 170,000 acres. But when you're off the trace on either side, you can get a mile off the trace, and you can be pretty lonely if you want to be, especially in the off season. From October into March and April, you can have thousands of acres to yourself.
Yeah. Well, to yourself.
Well,
that you know of.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. The cryptids, all the other things that live there, they've got it to themselves as well.
Yeah, that's a good time to do some investigating.
Yep.
That wolf that we recorded at that last expedition, we shared it. So I think it's on YouTube if anybody wanted to go back and find it, or maybe it was just a reel, but clear as day. And this thing came up to the tree line and we were filming it. And John does an amazing wolf call.
Yeah, he does.
And this thing mimicked him.
Mm-hmm.
It was, in fact, I shared it on Facebook or wherever, and people wouldn't believe that it was John doing the call.
Yeah.
He was so good. Like over and over and over, I'm trying to explain. No, it's definitely a wolf. Like it was the weirdest thing. So they are out there. It was definitely a wolf.
Yep.
So you want to tell us about your sighting?
Well, it was May 10th of 2020, and in the pursuit of fishing, and man, it's just I've told it. I try to shorten it up, but we had a great day the day before. It was the first time the kids had been out. I got my wife the fishing bug. We got in a boat a year before, and she had just gotten crazy about fishing and being out, but she got pregnant, and then COVID hit. And after that great day, we wanted to go back, but the waves were so bad and the wind was so bad, we had to really get off the beaten path. And I may not even shared this with you. So we went to the location. I put my boat in a spot, not even the ramp was closed. And I put my boat in a spot where they put kayaks in, and I decided to leave my trailer in the water because I didn't want somebody to come take the spot, block me in, and then I get caught moving the federal barrier to get to the closed boat ramp. I got a ticket anyway. A guy had come by. I got a ticket for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle in a non-motor vehicle area, but I gladly paid it. I wrote on there somewhere. I saw Bigfoot on the memo line.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. So that's somewhere in the National Archives. I don't know, but yeah, man. So we just went to the spot, and it was calm. It was calm. The fishing wasn't great, and what we do is we like to cook hot dogs on a fire, build a fire. So I found a real little spot. I say you've been there. It's all on your video, and we did hear walking. And when you go into the spot, it's a 2-mile road. There was no other cars. The north-south trail is close to there, but not where somebody would really be hiking. But so I had my back to a ridge, and I heard some walking, and told my wife, my infant daughter, my toddler daughter, and then I had my 16-year-old daughter with us. And I said, girls, just pay attention up there. I think I hear some walking. And I don't know, 15, 20 minutes went by after that, and we didn't hear much. And we were getting ready to leave. And my daughter asked, what do you think happened to those people? Did they ever, come up, or did you see anything? I said, no, I didn't. And I'm getting ready to push the boat off. And then we hear this knock. And so we're thinking maybe they're within earshot and heard us talking, and it's kids messing with us. But Mira said, what does that? And I'd seen all the Bigfoot shows, and I said, well, they say Bigfoot doesn't. I looked down, there was a stick there. So, when I knocked on the tree, man, right down the bank, I called it 100 yards. It might have been a little more, a little less, but another clear knock, just like the ones you got that night. One single knock. I've come to realize, I think that one single knock is just the warning, something's in, something's up, caution kind of thing. But we looked at each other, and I'm still, having been in the woods my whole life, and not really doubting people, but wanting to see something myself before I believed it, and really set in my paradigm or frame of reference of what the woods are and what's in there. But we were curious. We went on down the bank, and then it's just it was right there, man. And it just and I said, I don't curse a lot, but I said, holy, there's Bigfoot. And it's just standing there, and I know it heard me now. I mean, it heard me. It backed up, and the girls are trying to see it, and I'm trying to, like I say, you've been there in the boat in that spot. I was trying to keep the boat where they could see it, but off the rocks, I'm still trying to keep eye contact with it. It actually went away from when I turned to get Kara to be able to see it. It goes this way. Then I had to spin her around, and I think it knew, the head of the boat and the direction we were going, and it was honestly trying to get away. It did not want to be seen. And, I got the closest look. So we were there in the video. We got it at 80 yards is what the range was. And then I think we were probably about 60 yards away, because when we were there, the water was high. And then we were about 30 yards away when it came down the hill. That thing just came running down the hill. And I tell people, if I hadn't locked in on this thing, I would never have been able to see it. The girls couldn't catch it. It was moving so fast and so smooth and so quietly. but we did see the trees shaking, and that's when I think we've come to realize it. At the time, I thought it was just that was it pulling itself up, but I think it was that second one shaking the tree to try to distract us.
Right.
But I got a good look in its hand, and they were finally able to catch. Mira was able to catch the trees and the movement, and the scariest thing, it wasn't scary. I don't think they're, I tell people, if those things wanted to hurt you, they would have you. It just flat out, they would have you. And we drift down the bank though. I put it in neutral, and the boat's down there, and boat, you can see where the truck and the boat trailer are. And I still wanted to go, still wanted to maybe fish. I hadn't caught much, and but the girls are shocked. But man, as I hit that motor, they hear that scream, that frustrated, just whoa, just this, and it had followed us down a little bit, and so Kara's thinking, I can see where it could go right to the trailer and get us, and she basically get this thing. You're not allowed to carry firearms there, but I have one in my glove box all the time. That's legal in Kentucky, and she's like, get, and I tell people I wouldn't have shot at it. That would be the worst thing you could do is try to shoot one of those. You just make it mad. But we didn't know that at the time, so she's like, get to the trailer, get your gun, we're out of here. And you could just see because they looked at each other. That was a growl. Was that a growl? And thankfully, a truck was coming down the road. A family was coming down the road when we got in there, and the relief that, well, at least we won't be alone when this thing gets. Yeah. And that's continued, man. Kara has had one distance sighting, but they growl, and she hears the stuff, the scary stuff she hears for some reason, and they were definitely shaken up. That we all were. I come, and like I say, I started. And I knew it. I'm like, do I call the Finding Bigfoot guys? I'm like, no. And that's a TV show. I wanted, I knew this was real. And that's when I found you on like Bigfoot in Kentucky, and you came up. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming to us first. One thing about the sighting, which I talk about, you mentioned when it was next to the tree and the light was hitting it.
Yes.
And then when it would move, or the lighting would change.
Yeah.
The colorization would change, or something would change about the way it looked. Can you describe that?
Yes, absolutely. You know what the neatest thing? So at the time, I used there's a documentary called The Grizzly Man, Timothy Treadwell's experience, and he films grizzly bears. And at the time, I used that. If people will go watch your video, you can watch my daughter in the boat and watch her hair change as she turns. It looks like she's got almost a darker brown hair, and then when she turns this way and the sunlight hits it, it's blonde and red. You can actually see that in my daughter's hair in the video you made. But yes, that was I knew right away. The width of it was just imposing. The way the eyes were deep set, and the way that hair changed as it moved and stepped back, I knew this is real. That's not a suit, and it's a wholesale change. I mean, if you buy a brown suit that has fur that's probably made out of cotton or synthetic that's made to look real, it might get a little lighter or darker depending on the light that's hitting it, but a wholesale change in the color.
Yeah. And the reason why I mentioned that, I've had other people tell me the same thing, and even ones that have come out of the water that look dry, and the hair's blowing in the wind, and they just came out of the water.
Yeah.
So the hair properties, we know there's no cellular medulla.
Yes.
In the supposed Bigfoot hair. So has it adapted over thousands of years to have this hair that could refract light, absorb light, help it, that cryptic colorization, help it blend in and almost look invisible.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah. And like you, so I approach this two ways. One, the natural way. I am a Christian. That's a big part of my life, and I think everything with Bigfoot lines up that way as well. But I look at things like there's a guy called Wim Hof, and He's called the Iceman, and this guy can warm his body up immersed in ice. He's run barefoot marathons.
Right, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, had frostbite and cured frostbite. So I'm thinking
Power of the mind.
Yeah, it's if I'm Bigfoot and I've got already a hollow stem for hair, there's basically just a small step where what if they could control how the light is hitting that and how it's reacting to it. You don't have to make a big jump if you'll actually open your mind and think. The cloaking thing doesn't have to be supernatural. I think it could definitely be a natural thing, or I'm open to both, but I approach it as a natural thing.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
And the key is that we have to stay open-minded because we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So it could be either of those things.
Yeah.
So Jonas said that's only 5 years ago, hasn't been too long. But have you recognized the Bigfoot? What does it look like? The size? Is it male or female? So that's a question that comes up a lot. Can you tell if it's male or female?
That's too far away.
Yeah, the ones I have seen close enough to be able to tell, I've never seen a full frontal, so to speak, appear to be male. And I'm developing some theories on this. I think the ones I have seen that are interacting, I think they're probably juvenile or young adults. I think the females stay far away, and maybe those are the ones that are just looking and peeking. And then there's at least one big grumpy big one I know that wants you to know it doesn't want you around. And so I've seen males. You look at the Patterson-Gimlin film, and you can clearly see that was a female. And there is a report from Red Hollow of a Sasquatch years ago. I think this is actually on the just the Bigfoot BFRO site, where a man saw all of the male,
right,
and was startled by that.
But, parts, yeah.
But I think it's pretty much just like people. If you see breast, it's a female. If you see other stuff or lack of breast, it's a male.
And maybe it depends on how hairy they are too.
The other thing, the males are bigger and the tracks are larger.
Yes.
So it's well documented that a male Bigfoot track is much larger than a female Bigfoot track.
Yep. And I've found them. I've got in this area. I found them as small as 13 inches and as large as 19 inches. So, and then most of the time they're around 15 or 16 inches. But
and all those are they near your sighting, the same location where your sighting was?
Yes. Yeah. I've got it pretty much dialed in where this is. I think the sighting location I'm at, for whatever reason, is where the juveniles hang out and they're more active during the day. And then I've got a location where I think the big male lives, and maybe the females. I don't know if they've got a family unit or if they've got a home base, or they do tend to move and migrate a bit, is from what I can tell in this area. But they've been pretty consistent in this area for about 5 years now.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, they want to know where exactly, and I hate to be stingy, but we don't want everybody and their brother there scaring them off, hunting them, because we try to do research in these areas. So, no disrespect to other people that are asking, and we're not trying to be rude, but we kind of protect these areas, for lots of reasons. So I hope people understand that.
Yeah.
Mike is asking, do Bigfoots have instincts and dispositions to harm or kill humans? Another question that comes up a lot. What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
Again, I do not think so. I think I have always thought, just being a critical, watching the shows, they make these shows sound so scary, but the fact is, the people are there telling you the story, and they did survive. And now that I have seen this firsthand up close, it's like I said earlier, it would be the missing 411 stuff is what we'd be talking about.
Right.
They really, and I've been out enough. I've had maybe 2 experiences, the one area with this, what I think is the big male, where he didn't want us in there. And we had one just recently with my wife and my girls were there, where it felt intimidating, like a bluff charge from a mountain gorilla. Like not again, we knew we needed to leave, but I didn't ever feel like we were gonna. I wouldn't take my children out there if I felt like we were really in danger from a Bigfoot. Yeah.
Right. That's, I mean, it's not to say there isn't the exception. I mean, Jimmy that we had on a few weeks ago. Did I just see Jimmy in the chat too?
Yeah, right there. Jimmy Cox.
Jimmy Cox, yeah. So Jimmy's experience, Jimmy's here tonight. His was exceptional. That one was terrifying, but he's here to talk about it. He came on the show and he told us all about it. So it's like you say, Mike. If they really wanted to, if their dispositions were to harm or kill, then we wouldn't be here talking about it, or at least you wouldn't.
Yep.
So, I've not had the pleasure of seeing one yet.
So let's go to the story of the Beast of LBL.
Okay.
The family that was killed, supposedly.
Yeah.
And I've like everybody else, I've heard different versions of it. I've heard the I forgot his name, the survivor, the friend of the family, the kid that he was on, I forgot whose YouTube channel talking about it. Yeah, Roger. I heard that. That was compelling. Now I do believe the government knows about Bigfoots, and there's a government cover-up. The reason I say that is, as far as I know, there are no medical reports. There's no death certificates. There are no newspaper articles. The Freedom of Information Act. I know some people that filed one and nothing came up. But we do know the government can cover things up.
Yes.
So what do you think about that story?
Well, so my contribution to some of the small town monster stuff was I heard about the story in 1989, well before the internet. And I'll give you all the short version of this. We were going camping instead of going to the usual Friday night party, and it was up in the north end, Barkley. And the manager always used to have us over. Assistant manager had us over to her house, and it was nice. She thought we would all be safe there. You know, it's high school age up to 20s and 30s. It was just a really neat thing, but it was every weekend. So she's like, let's go do a camp out, and a bunch of them went and set up at this spot earlier. We were going to work and then get off and go. And when I got there to go for my shift at about 4:00, they said, Mike, you got to go get this stuff. We're not camping. And they had heard something there. And so I thought they were joking, and they sent a guy with me, and we get out there. It was just folding chairs and tables and a few things. And I had a van so I was the guy that could get that stuff. And I heard it scream at us, and whoa! And it was moving. It was coming at us. And I had already seen a mountain lion in that area before. So the guy was really scared that was with me, Craig. But I said, and I was armed, of course. I said, that's just a mountain lion. We're near a kill or something. Let's get out of here. And it was a few months later where the assistant manager, I believe, asked me and asked everybody, did you hear about what happened to that family right over there? And that's the first time I had heard about it. I also, and this, I haven't ever shared this, in doing the documentary, there's a group I'm a part of, Between the Rivers. They hate all this stuff. They hate the people in there doing Bigfoot hunts, and they hate the even assertion that there's anything like that over there, because these were the people that were kids and got kicked out. And this lady is over 90 years old, and she messengered me about this. And what she said was, I know a detective that covered this case. It was a serial killer. These people picked up a hitchhiker from Florida, brought him up here. He murdered the family. He is now in jail in Florida. Will you please stop contributing to these rumors of anything else? And I asked her, would she participate in the documentary and the small town monster stuff? And she said, no, I don't want any publicity. I don't want to be attached to it. I just want it to stop. So I'm confident something has happened. Something happened there. That footprint that I got, that was another thing. Through another podcast, Brian King Sharp, Meldrum looked at a video and looked at the cast and the pictures, and he's always very scientific and very matter of fact. And he said, "This appears to be a print, and if what I'm seeing is legit, because he didn't know me or anything, but he said if that is a print, which it appears to be, it is not a Bigfoot print." And he said the mid-tarsal break and everything was wrong. And then as soon as I looked at it, I was like, well, he's right. So I've got a cast that I know is a print. I cast it. It's on. If you go to Smith Ridge Adventures, I'm not out there looking for subscribers or anything, but I've got a YouTube. It's Smith Ridge Adventures. I post all these videos on there just for people. What about this? What about this? What about this? Well, I put it up there. So that's up there. So yes, I do believe there's things other than Sasquatch roaming out there. I do believe something happened. I just don't know where I am if it was the murders were caused by a cryptid or a person. I tend to lean more to the person, honestly. Now I know Martin real well, and I don't doubt what he is saying. But again, he survived the incident.
Right.
So
I wish Martin well.
Absolutely.
I know he's been sick, so I don't know. I've not seen him in the chat tonight, but hopefully he's doing better, and maybe if he's able to, he might show up at some point. But I did hear that there were a couple of women.
Yeah, two women were murdered near there, and that's what they were saying. That could have been.
I wonder if that was the serial killer.
Okay, so I actually contacted the FBI in response to that. They were in the South End, the two sisters, I believe they were.
Yeah.
And there was when they finally put out the age progression of this guy, I had an experience one time. I was with a girl and we were watching a sunset, and they pulled in a road. And the road's closed now. Had pulled into a spot up. It was on the north end where we were, but the sisters were killed in the south end, or disappeared in the south end. Watching the sunset, and I just looked up and I see this guy in camouflage peeking from behind a tree. And I noticed that as the time progresses, he's getting closer to us. So I whispered in her ear, "Don't get scared. Do exactly what I say. I'm going to start talking really loud and we're going to get out of here." And then I say real loud, "Hey, let's go on down to the lake and look at the shore or something." And so we circled back, and there was a blue, I'll never forget it, blue Cadillac, Michigan plates. I got the number. We got out of there, went right to the authorities, and got a good look at the guy. And I'm explaining to the authorities about this, and they're just the federal cops. They're like, "Well, there's nothing wrong with being in the woods watching people." Where the guy drove by. And I said, "Sir, there he goes right there. Could you please just pull him over?" And they said they couldn't. There was no cause. I had a friend of mine with the Murray Police Department run the plates. I don't have that information. I couldn't find it because this is back in the 90s. But as soon as I saw the age progression of the suspect for this murder, that's the guy.
Oh, okay.
And I told the FBI that. I said, that's the guy I saw. But it's been so long. The people still run an organization for that, and I sent them a message, was in contact with them, and they were very thankful. But I think that one's going to be cold for a long time because it was so long ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I heard other people have died in LBL for various reasons. It happens. Were any of those attributed? People think could have been a Bigfoot or Dogman?
Yes, so the one that's on YouTube, and I forget who did it, about the I don't know if it was a park official. They used to have the water patrol here, and it wasn't necessarily a game warden. It was a state police officer. That one, I believe that one, where he said he was coming around at the campsite, and he saw them camping, and they were just getting up, and he saw this dog man coming after him, and he was waving at him, and he watched him kill him. And then he retired. He didn't talk about it till he retired and then passed away. There's been a few of those that you'll hear about, and we even heard about it before. So when we were running around LBL, even in the 80s, my dad's instructions were you keep your pistol in the glove box, you never go alone, and you're home. You don't go out at night. You're home by before dark, or out of LBL anyway.
Yeah.
So there was that one. We get the definitely human stuff. There's some bad folks running around, and I think at the time that's what people were talking about. But the local thing was there was people that were still in LBL, and they were mad because they were kicked out, and they were killing people, serial killers. But they always said wild men. They always said you got to watch out for wild men.
Wow.
And see, so yeah, I was born on Fort Bragg. My dad was born in Callaway County, which is the neighboring county on the other side of the lake, and he went to school in Marshall County and Callaway. So we came down here every summer of my life. I just didn't move here until 1988, my junior year of high school. And so I got a lot of the background, and I was just driving. I was 16, and so all the local guys are telling me that we used to skip school and run around in LBO. That's what we did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, I thought of a unrelated question a little bit.
Okay.
When you went public with your sighting,
Mm-hmm.
and it was on YouTube and it started going around, what happened at school with your students and your players and your coworkers? What happened at your school?
Thankfully, I was not ridiculed too much. Just a few people that have come and told me I'm crazy. So the kids didn't. They're respectful. I've had a few. Well, I don't believe it. I've got more so that want to go out with me, and I keep telling them we're not going to go with a group of 20 guys and see much. It'll be a nice hike. But some of my coworkers just think I'm crazy. I've got a new superintendent, so I work directly for the superintendent in this district, and we just got a new one. And her son used to play soccer for me, and she was coming in. She started July 1st, but she got hired, I guess it was in late May. So I'm telling her my schedule and my vacation and when I'm going to be off. And I admitted, I said, okay, Miss Addison, I don't know if you know this, but I've got to be off in June. I've got a Bigfoot conference to speak at. And she said, oh, I know all about you and your Bigfoot. My boys come home and talk about it all the time. So thankfully, with the exception of a few online comments and trolls, basically, it's been probably 95% positive for me.
Yeah, well, that's good.
The trolls are insane on our page, but it's entertaining if nothing else. They keep us busy, which is kind of fun at times.
Yeah.
We've got a question. Where did it? Somebody was asking about. No, going back down. I had it up on the screen for a little while. Here we go. Mark Roberts, Night Vision Paranormal. Are there reports of people being zapped by Dogman as they are with Bigfoot? I've never heard of that. Have you?
No.
Yeah, I've not heard of it.
So for me personally, and I tell people you just have to kind of be around me. I'm sensitive to other things than what science just will tell you exists.
Yeah.
And I've had some times where I've felt not zapped and not physically harmed, but maybe disoriented or just really, really a big rush of anxiety. I was talking to Joe about it. There's this spot, and I think it's on my YouTube, where you go inside these trees, and it's basically the trees are almost growing in the shape of an infinity symbol. And when you get in there, and I felt the I felt something. I don't know if it's the I wouldn't call it being zapped, but I wouldn't doubt that.
Right. Yeah. The energy was off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've done dogman reports. I got probably close to 10, no more than 10 over all the years. And none of those, there's not many of them. But,
yeah.
And I've heard other dogman reports. I've never heard of somebody claiming to be zapped by a dogman. Yes, yeah. Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Get that a lot, but not dogman. But maybe they can. I don't know.
I don't know. I tend to think if they could do that. I've had one interaction, and my son was with me, and I shared this in one of the documentaries where something was growling at us. It was bipedal. It was following us, and we got out of there. It was it was at the cemetery you and I were at, Charlie. I don't know if you remember this, but when you and I were there, and I told you there's something in the back, and because I could see the shadow. And you're thinking it's Bigfoot, and then I've got to admit, okay, no, I'm kind of sensitive. I think it's something else. And that's when we went back there and found that tombstone of the guy that says murdered on it.
Yeah.
And it was cracked. And then I took my son back with a K2 meter, and this last name's Bannister. He'll talk to you, but there was something else out there, and I would probably, if I had to guess what it was, I would say Dogman. It certainly was not like any interaction I've had with Sasquatch or Bigfoot in my experience. So that's one I think that might have been something else.
Yeah. That same graveyard, Lindsay and I, we were on another expedition, I think, where
the tree.
Well, as soon as we walked into the graveyard, a tree fell.
Yeah.
Just beyond the graveyard. And we had heard whoops. I think we heard whoops prior to that.
We heard some distant whoops. This was the first time I've been there.
Yeah, distant whoops. And we walked into the graveyard. No wind.
Yeah.
No tree all night long. As soon as we came in the graveyard, a tree fell behind the graveyard.
Yeah.
And I always say fell. I never say pushed because we don't know. The tree fell. We heard it.
Yeah, that was super creepy. It was right as we walked into the graveyard. And I don't know that area too well, but to me it seemed like this graveyard was in the middle of nowhere, and I couldn't wrap my head around why there would be a graveyard that far out.
LBL is full of them. Any road.
Now I've learned that, yeah. But it was
how many graveyards are in LBL?
Almost 300.
300.
Almost, yeah.
There's a lot. Seems like every road you go down.
Yeah.
You'll hit a graveyard.
Old too, aren't they? They're super old, creepy.
And that's one of the local things. There's a book, I've got it. I can't remember I'd like to give him credit, the gentleman's name of all the local lore. There's still, when the water's low, there's still tombstones that you can take your boat out to. So the idea was they have moved these graveyards, and a lot of people speculate it's like the movie Poltergeist. They move the headstones and not the bodies. Tons of ghostly stuff, reports of apparitions on the lake near the water. Yeah, so it's spooky.
The paranormal stuff is kind of hot out there too. So
yep.
People going out there.
And who was it? I was just speaking with someone, and we had the same opinion about the paranormal things happening when you're on a Bigfoot hunt or there are Bigfoots nearby, but we agreed it's just paranormal. It doesn't mean the Bigfoot is doing that.
Right.
It could be just a spirit or apparition or something else supernatural, but not the Bigfoot. And sometimes people would think it's the Bigfoot because it happens near a graveyard.
Yeah.
Well, Bigfoot's like graveyards because deer like graveyards because deer graze in graveyards. So there's food for Bigfoots to hang around graveyards.
Oh yeah.
So all that's speculation, but we're trying to figure it out, I guess.
There's definitely plenty for them to eat out there. There's lots of raccoons. Was it? Somebody was experiencing some raccoon activity. I'm just thinking, it just came to my mind that there's plenty of wildlife out there too.
Oh yeah. Well, let me if we've got, I'll try to go quick.
Yeah, share that. What just happened? You said
We're talking about this tree. I'll give you the quick version. And Randy was here for some of this, so Randy will know. So we were fishing. There's 2 or 3 things over a couple weeks that happened. We were fishing. We pulled into a little spot. The girl smelled something. I'm focused on catching fish, and then I said, well, it could be old fish. And my daughter says, well, it's probably Bigfoot. My youngest one, my 5-year-old. And I said, well, you're in the right place. Our spot's not far from here. My wife says, come on, Bigfoot, just show yourself to me better than 200 yards away. Just come on. And a tree was pushed over, or a tree fell, as you say.
Yeah.
So I told Lindsay about that. When we go back in with Randy and we find bones, we find turtle eggs that have been eaten all in an area. We find all kinds of glyphs and tree work. I heard a knock. The very next weekend, we're fishing in the bay over, and we got in the back of it, and something took off down this ridge where I think this big male, where we've had other stuff with this grumpy guy already. It sounded like you were driving a bobcat through the trees. You could hear it walking off. You could hear trees cracking. We spooked something. Go to church the next weekend. This is the main part of the story. Go to church the next weekend, and after the service, we're back in the back getting the girls, and a guy comes up to me, and he looks kind of mad. I'm wondering, am I going to get in a fight in church? Because he's making a beeline to me. I knew him, but we're not close or anything. Gets right in my face, and he's trying to be quiet. He says, I saw one of your videos. And so I don't know, and I'm like, okay. He said, yeah, I saw what you were talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, Bigfoot. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. I felt, this is the first time I felt like I might have a purpose in life with these experiences. This guy, it was like he was at confession. His wife was right there, and she rolled her eyes. She said, they had their grandkid. She said, I'm taking him to get a burger, and left me with this guy. He starts describing night fishing, and they were night fishing. They heard what they thought was walking. They heard what they thought was grunting. He said they were probably 40 yards off the shore, and then all of a sudden a rock hits him in the arm, knocks the fishing rod out of his hand, almost breaks his arm. He said this rock landed in the boat. He should have kept it. They got out of there. They left there. He comes back 2 weeks later. They hear the same thing, and he said a boulder hits in the front, passed just right in the water in front of their boat. And he told the guy that was with him, we're not fishing here. I'm giving y'all the short version, but I said, man, can you tell me where you were? And I just knew it. And he said, well, I put in Fenton. I started going north, and I named a few bays. And he's like, no. And as soon as I named this bay that I took the people to on the expedition that Randy's been to with me, he went, that's it. That's the one. And I said, sir, that's where I get a lot of my activity, by one that I think is the only grumpy one in that area. And this was about 3 years ago. So this just kind of confirms to me, but it was a wait. I talked to my wife, and then we were in the car, and we saw him walking out of the church, and he was just like a belief, like, somebody believes me.
Yeah.
But it was really, really a cool thing, especially just on top of the recent activity we had there.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's exciting to have another witness validate either your experiences or another encounter that somebody else reports. And then you get a second one in the same area, and these people are unrelated completely. And the rock throwing is one of them over here in Red River Gorge. Had unrelated people tell me about rocks being thrown at them in the daytime, big rocks, and they left. And when I asked them, where were you? And they tell me the same exact area.
Yep.
And I believe there's a grumpy one there, one that's living there, and they want you to leave.
Yep.
So.
Mike, you have to tell us about the wreaths.
Oh yes, and this was just such a cool thing. My wife found these. Randy might have spotted one too. I don't want to not credit him. I get focused in. If I'm fishing, I'm thinking about fish. And at this point, I was trying to find this tree that fell, that might have gotten, we thought, pushed over. And I'm locked in, and my wife discovers these. And what's the neatest thing about it is, and again, there's pictures of this. The vines there were all mixed in with a lot of thorns, a lot of briars, a lot of what we just call grapevines. All the thorns had been separated once. There wasn't a thorn one in this. It was just all the grape type vines, and it was just an intricate woven, like you would buy at a craft store. If I hung this, and I don't take them, so I talked to a guy up in Pennsylvania. He said, "Man, you should have. I take every one of these." He trades them out something, but I don't move this stuff. I don't know. Is it sacred? Is it a navigational marker? Are they watching me? Is it a gift? I don't know. So I leave it. But this thing was amazing. And then Carol went over just a few feet, and another one, it was more of an arch, had been put up against a tree. And again, you could see where it's woven. I'm fascinated by this stuff more than the prints and the knocks and the things. This is like artwork. You get areas, yeah, you get on these areas on top of some of these ridges. It's almost like, I don't know if it's the nursery school. It's almost like, do they tell these to stay up here and don't get in any trouble? And then are they just like kids finding stuff to do and making this stuff and leaving it? But the wreath was one of the best we found.
Did you or Randy take pictures?
Oh yes, we've got plenty of pictures. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to see those.
Okay.
I would never bother these. I think he's saying he wouldn't touch them.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't think I would have taken them. What I would do though is go back and bring something else that you make and set next to it.
I tell you what. So Big Ray and I have gotten to be pretty good friends. I know you guys know him, and I promised him on the 6th, on Sunday, we're going to get out in the boat, and I'm just going to take him around to these spots from my boat, and I'm going to document some of it. We're going to go in there and see if the wreath is still there, and I'm going to take something and maybe pull the trade on them, or at least leave them something and see what they do. I have had that, Charlie. I know you and I talked. I've got another spot I go where they move rocks, and I think they've left me a knocking stick. Mm-hmm. I left that there. We were talking about maybe leaving a marble thing with some indentions where they could actually, it wouldn't have fallen. So I may do that as well.
Yeah, I wish we lived somewhere close like that. We can gift.
Yeah.
Or do experiments with them.
We can do it down in the gorge.
Yeah, we can do it. It's just a longer drive. But
down in the gorge.
Yeah. Well, we'll take a couple questions real quick, and then we'll wrap this up.
Quick question from Jim: who catches the most fish, you or your girls?
Well, I fish harder. My secret is I just make 100 casts to everybody else's 10. I'm like a machine. But when the girls start, Briar and Layla both are the luckiest, best fishermen. They can cast in the middle of nothing, and just all of a sudden I've got one. So I do, but if they fished as hard as I did, they would blow me away. Yeah.
Randy, all good fishermen alive. We're actually going to try and get some fishing done tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we're going tomorrow morning.
We're going to try and get.
Did you see that bass my son caught?
Oh yeah.
It had to be 7. I bet 7 pounds.
Easy 7.
And she was on a bed.
Wow.
They're bedding. This was a month ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're bedding now. But kept pulling what was it, a worm or a lizard? Just kept putting it on the bed until it picked it up. And he caught it. So we're going to go tomorrow to that same spot. And that same spot we're going to, this leads me into one of our announcements. Our fall expedition, the sign up begins Saturday at 10 a.m. KentuckyBigfoot.com. We'll have a link, information about our fall expedition. And the fall expedition is at Jay's property. And a lot of you guys have been to Jay's. It's in the Daniel Boone so many encounters there, around there. So he's giving us permission to go back on his property. It's gorgeous. He has tree knocks, howls, whoops every night,
Wow.
basically. Uh, the other part of my announcement, the second part, um, just today, it's on the BFRO's website. Matt went ahead and posted it live. I just did it yesterday. I called a witness near Jay's, near Salt Lick, Kentucky. I can mention that. It's not, right where the expedition is. It's on the BFRO's website, live right now in Kentucky, the full report. A hunter, when he was 14, in a ground blind, no, I'm sorry, it was a fallen tree. He put a net and he was full camoed, hiding in this down tree with some netting in the woods, in the forest. He said a herd of deer come off this ridge, running frantically all through the woods right by him, and then a black Bigfoot,
Wow.
8 foot,
Wow.
was chasing him. Came within 20 yards of his ground blind. And he said that was when I was 14 years old. I don't live there now. I live in Indianapolis, but I felt compelled to send this report in to the BFRO. Well, I contacted him. Truth be told, it's near Jay's. It's literally, just a few miles from Jay's. So our expedition is going to be there. Here's yet another historical report of a Bigfoot chasing deer, a herd of deer, by a very credible witness. I also recorded the conversation. So I think Sunday, the recorded conversation is going to go live on our YouTube Sunday morning.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
but we would love to have you, Mike, on the expedition. If it's October 16th through the 19th.
Okay, I'll have to see if my soccer's done by then or not. But yeah.
I have a question before we start wrapping things up. How has this kind of changed your perspective on life in general? I don't want to sound too wishy-washy, but how has this impacted on you, this experience? Because not everybody's lucky enough to, see one.
Yeah.
Lives looking.
Well, it's after I get, I tell people I don't have PTSD over it because it's, and I think I don't want to minimize that real condition, but the negatives are I can't go anywhere without looking around and wondering if there's a Sasquatch. It's amazing to realize that something you thought was mythical in your childhood is real. So that's an amazing thing, and I feel like it's a gift and a blessing, but it's kind of a curse because it changes you. I just can't. I've approached it in a good way. I think the things that happened with me and to me paranormal wise in my life kind of prepared me for that a little bit. I think I'm better prepared than if this had been the first thing. And I understand how people can be scared by it and the negative things, but for me, it's been a blessing. It's been a gift to me. I've met a lot of great people. It's opened up. Even spiritually, I think it's just when you're forced to open up your mind.
Right.
I've taken it as a positive, but I tell you what, I do get mad sometimes. I catch myself. I have to rubberneck. I have to every power line cut.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Right. That's wonderful. I think it helps to be a little bit open-minded even before you see one, because I think if you're not, I think people are seeing things and not allowing themselves to believe it at times too.
Exactly.
Everybody writes it off. They're like, it's a bear. They saw a bear. Well, maybe it wasn't a bear, but they're telling themselves it was a bear, or it was, something else. So it helps to have an open mind to begin with and allow yourself to actually believe
Well,
what
I've
might
always,
be
yeah,
possible.
I've always not believed in multiple coincidence, and I wasn't raised in church, but my dad was very much through the outdoors. Son, if you believe this was an accident,
Right.
you're sorely mistaken. And it takes more faith to believe in the sheer number of coincidences that would have to occur for this to have happened, our entire world to have happened naturally. So
Right.
whatever you call that or however you deal with that, I encourage people, be open to this stuff. And science is great and explains a lot, but it's got a limit, and we can't stop there. And people do that. They try too hard, like you just said. They know what they saw, they know what they experienced, but they're lying to themselves to try to put it in a box that science has explained, because that box doesn't exist. It's something else.
Right. There is definitely a lot more going on.
Yep.
Well, Mike, we want to thank you for coming on the show and being patient.
Yeah.
Where I speak for myself, but Lindsay will agree. I'm very thankful that you came forward with your story. You're well educated, you're articulate. We need more people like you that could further the research and spread the gospel.
Right.
Because when you talk, people listen to you.
Yeah.
Because you make sense, and we need more people.
Rational, less of this sensationalism that's just insane right now. I think the experience that we had tonight on tonight's show, very grounded, and I think a lot of people will take a lot away from listening to what you've had to say. Where can people find you, Mike? I know you mentioned you got a YouTube.
Well, I do, I put that on there. So I'm on Facebook. I look, I don't mind having friends that I've never met if I've got mutual friends with them, and I know, so I accept friend requests from a lot of people. But it's on YouTube. It's called Smith Ridge Adventures. Y'all can't see it. It's got a little mountain logo on the logo.
I like it.
So if you go there, I'm not trying to monetize it or looking. There's not a lot of regular content. It's just for the people that, when I do stuff like this, want to see what I'm talking about, because I want to make sure people know I'm not crazy. You don't have to agree with me, and you may look at what I'm looking at and think it's something different, and that's awesome. But it's what I'm experiencing and seeing is real, and I don't mind sharing that. So that's for YouTube, Smith Ridge Adventures. You don't even have to subscribe or like. You can just go on there and check it out.
Wonderful. I don't think we're on there yet, but we will be tonight.
Okay.
Smith Ridge Adventures. We'll check you out.
If you remind me, if you send me the link when I post this podcast on our YouTube channel, I'll put a link in our description.
Yes, sir. No problem. Hey, man, I'm glad you're doing okay. I talked to Lindsay a little bit, here and there while you were. I knew you'd pull through. I knew you were too tough to go down like that.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, we were texting. We were in the hospital, and I think it was that night we were supposed to have the show with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here, Mike. I don't think there's a strong chance he's not coming out of hospital, so we might have to hustle.
Yeah.
And anyway, we hustled. So I appreciate you being for you working with us. It was super late notice, and then we had to juggle a vacation and things. But thank you for sticking in there with us.
No problem. My pleasure.
And I'm sure we will get together soon. Okay. I know we will be down there in November. Greg is, I think, making another documentary.
Okay.
And he wants us or me to be a part of it in November. So I know we'll be down there. We will look you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll keep in touch. I'll keep following your fishing adventures because I'm jealous every time you get out on the water. We don't do it enough, but hopefully we'll get out in the morning.
Well, there's room for 3 in my boat. So if you guys get down there and have the time, even in November, if the weather's nice, we can get the boat out. Just let me know.
Okay.
Love to.
All right, Mike. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you again so much.
All right.
Y'all too. See ya.
Bye.
Good night, guys.